Hi, I'm Wallace. I'm here today to discuss the fact that, for lack of a better word, and probably because it's just the most accurate word anyway, I believe I'm in a writing slump. Although I do feel like I have to put an asterisk on that just because I have been working on this book as for October and I've been really enjoying that work. So I feel like I'm less in a writing slump and more in a story slump for Project HR specifically. And I've been trying to diagnose the issue, and a couple of days ago I basically made 2 long lists. Things that I felt were affecting my ability to work on the story externally, and things that were affecting my ability to work on the story internally. So externally are things like interruptions, other work that has to get done, other stories that need to be written, the pressure to film videos, hanging out with family, just anything that doesn't have to do with the story itself, but that was also preventing me from working on the story. And then I had my list of internal factors. That one was like a full page in my project journal, and there are probably too many to list off. But obviously being in a writing slump is a bit of an issue, and I want to address it. So from those lists, I have identified some potential things that I can really tackle, and I kind of want to make a series of videos for the next couple of weeks where I'm attempting to tackle one of the individual either external or internal issues that I've identified as maybe one of the reasons why I'm struggling to write this story. Oh, I think the rain is slowing down. Sorry, I'm just gonna take a minute to listen to the birds. One of the largest internal issues that I pinpointed was I feel I'm quite intimidated and also mystified by my main character, Andromeda. My fear comes from a feeling of not knowing who she really is. I have these very basic ideas of her personality, but I don't really know her. So that's kind of the goal today, is to do a character study of her on my own as a way for, this is gonna sound so ridiculous, but as a way of forming a bond with her myself, so that way I have an easier time getting into her headspace when it's time to write. Now, there are a couple of different avenues in which I can attempt to just sit and spend the day with Andromeda, but the first thing I'm going to do is the main character tag that I created with Katie Devacian-Stieg last year. It's a tag of 8 fairly oddball questions that we specifically designed to get people to really think about their main characters and be able to talk about their main characters and give interesting insights into their psyche without having to spoil any major plot points of their story. I've already made a video like this for a different project. I will link that below, but this video isn't going to be like a lot of the main character tag videos that have already been put up. This video is going to be more of a vlog as I kind of sit and contemplate about each of the answers. I do have my Project HR journal here with me. I have things that I wrote for her quite a while ago, earlier in the year. But there are some empty pages that I'm gonna fill up as I work today and answer the questions from the tag. That's the, Lord have mercy, the 14-minute intro. Definitely gonna edit that down. Let's see if I can get it under 3 minutes. Probably not. The first question of the tag is, what is your main character's name? How was it chosen? And how does your main character feel about their name? So I've already said that my main character's name is Andromeda. How did I choose it? Well, in my world building, about 20 years before my main character is born, a star goes supernova, and it has kind of a lingering effect on pop culture and trends, highest levels of fashion, and then I also thought that it might affect baby names and design style, you know, everything very kind of similar to what happened in the 1950s, 1960s with like that mid-century modern cosmic kind of style. And so I thought, yeah, maybe about 20 years afterwards, they'd still be like out in the more rural areas where it takes longer for trends to get to. There would still be a baby naming trend of naming your children after celestial things, and I've always really liked the name Andromeda, so that's the one that I went with. As for in the story, how Andromeda feels about her name, I think she finds it very ironic There's a scene in which she's talking with a character, she's introducing herself. The person asks how she got her name, and she responds that when she was born, her mother said she had stars in her eyes. And the person looks into her eyes and says, I don't see any stars, because they're rude. She responds that they went out a long time ago. So it's her having her little emo moment, but I love that exchange. I think that's kind of how she views her name, in a very ironic way, of that she's meant to contain this like galaxy full of stars, and yet she feels very dead inside. That's interesting. Does she feel dead? Or because like she's meant to be highly motivated. I'm gonna write that down. Does she feel dead inside? Is she apathetic? Because ultimately, writing someone who is dead inside and writing someone who is apathetic and reading someone who is apathetic, it's not always a good headspace to be in. Asking someone to be there with you for over 300 pages is a really big ask. Maybe the stars in her eyes don't represent life in her mind, but represent hope and like innocence, and those are the things that have been taken from her and the things that have gone out. But she herself isn't dead. I don't think I want her to be apathetic. I think that's more engaging when there's a character who's driven and has a distinguished goal, and she does. Not dead. The next question is the zodiac question. I'm not looking forward to this one. Okay, here's the thing about me. I actually almost never definitively say when my characters' birthdays are. It's just never something I think about. So I really don't know what sign Andromeda is. All I know is that her birthday isn't in August, because this whole story takes place in August and we never celebrate her birthday. I'm going to take a quiz called What Zodiac Sign Am I Really? From brainfall.com. So those questions to figure out what zodiac sign she is, which then retroactively will tell me what her birthday is. All right, here we go. So what role does she usually take on in her friend group? The mom friend, the leader, the practical friend, or the peacekeeper? Funnily enough, I think she would take on the role of the peacekeeper, which is very ironic, but that's not who she is naturally. So I don't know, that's interesting. I don't know how I should be answering these questions. Oh well, whatever. Oh, it doesn't really matter. Sorry, Katie. Which of these words describe your personality best? Nurturing, hardworking, passionate, and diplomatic. I would say she's diplomatic in the fact that she's very manipulative. So we're going with diplomatic. It kind of relates back to the idea of being the peacekeeper. All right. Oh, here we go. Calculating the results. Apparently she's a Virgo. When are Virgo dates? August! Above all else, Virgos want to help. They are kind, gentle, and supportive friends who use their incredible intellect and resourcefulness to problem solve. These earth signs are always striving to provide workable solutions and improve broken systems. Methodical, committed, and hardworking, they make excellent teachers, healers, editors, and musicians. Interesting. One of my friends, Katie Ann writes, is kind of my main contact when it comes to astrology. And she also happens to know quite a bit about Project HR and Andromeda herself. So I'm gonna get in contact with Katie and ask her what sign she thinks Andromeda is.
Hello?
Hi!
What's up?
I'm vlogging right now, just so you know.
Oh, okay, cool. Hi.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
Knowing all that you know about her, what sign do you think Andromeda is?
Oh, gosh. Oh, Lord. My first instinct is Scorpio.
Why is that?
She's got a lot of depth to her, and she's like, I don't want to say mysterious, but like the people around her don't really get to know her, like the real her, because she puts up such a facade, and I feel like that is such a trait of Scorpios.
Okay, then here's my second question then.
Okay.
If you met Andromeda in real life and like were faced with her facade, what sign would you think that facade is?
Oh, interesting. I think probably Cancer.
All right, interesting. Thank you very much. been a bit of a busy day, but I wanted to check in over some of the other questions. Not some, that was a lie, just one. Question number 3 is describe your main character's relationship to the person or people who raised them. Andromeda actually had 2 sets of guardians in her life. She had her parents from when she was born to turning 11, and then she ran away from home and was sort of adopted by a woman and a community at large. Her relationship with the woman who raised her, who is a woman that everybody just calls Madam X, is odd. It is a parent-child relationship. It's a mentor-mentee relationship. It's an employer-employee relationship. I think Andromeda is very grateful. Madam X quite literally saved her life when she took Andromeda in and provided housing and clothing and shelter for her. But I think that there's also a lot of resentment on Andromeda's part because Madam X has definitively taken advantage of Andromeda as well for the years that they've lived together. She kind of puts Andromeda to work and doesn't pay her very well and is very back and forth emotionally. So I think Andromeda has a very complex relationship with Madam X because there's this deep sense of gratitude, which is something that I feel like I didn't really focus on in the first couple chapters that I wrote, and so I want to play with that a little bit more. But there's also this deep resentment, which is the main emotion I was focusing on, which I feel like is a very valid emotion, but I want to be able to explore that confusion of when you are totally valid in your anger over someone, but you can't help but be conflicted because of the good that they did bring to your life. And so then that makes you feel guilty. And anyway, I just think that's a really interesting headspace. Anyway, I don't know if any of that was coherent, but that's where we're gonna leave it for the night. Night. New day, new background. I am ready to get back into some of these questions. Let's see what the next one is. Question number 4 is actually going to be pretty easy for me to answer. What is your character's most important memory? That one's pretty simple. Her most important memory, as I've alluded to a couple of times during this video, I think I've alluded to it, is the fact that Andromeda witnessed her brother's murder when she was 11 years old, and the murderers threatened to get her as well, and that's why she ran away from home. Pretty much her most important memory. That's not a spoiler because the fact that her brother has been murdered is literally the first line of the book, so we're fine. All right, question number 5. Your main character walks into a library. Where do they go? Okay, so I've been thinking about this one because it's one of the sticking points in these early chapters of my book. Right off the bat, I would say she would go to a section on fairy tales, but I say that with an asterisk. I have written a couple of what seem like throwaway lines describing how Andromeda loves or loved fairy tales before her brother died, and I think I incorporated that in because even though this story is happening in the future, I kind of wanted the aesthetic to be more similar to a fairy tale rather than science fiction, and I think because of that, kind of there was a bleed over into her personality as a child, a love of fairy tales, but that bright-eyed love of magical stories with happy endings doesn't really mesh well with who she is for the bulk of the story. It's something I struggle with, of if that's something that I want to keep. Is this a contradiction that is actually interesting and nuanced for the character? Or when I'm writing it or reading it, I'm gonna think this just feels so out of character for her. It kind of goes back to what I was saying about her name. She considers herself to not really have that innocence and hope that you would think like someone who loves fairy tales would probably have within them. I don't know. You have to put a pin in it. But I do feel like that's been the problem as I've been writing, is I come up with these questions of, oh, is this how she would act? I'm like, okay, well, I've identified the question and we're gonna put a pin in it and come back to it later. And then I just never come back to it. And so now I'm at a place where I'm like, who is this woman? All right, question number 6. Would Andromeda survive the Oregon Trail? I would say no, she definitely couldn't survive it on her own. But what I do think she would do is she would identify a group of people who were also traveling and who she felt had the highest chance of survival. And she would ingratiate herself with them in order to have them keep her safe as they all did the Oregon Trail. All right, the next question. What deal would she make with a crossroads demon? I think this is one that I need to think on further. So I will check in after doing said thinking. Hello, it is once again late in the evening. I am coming to you before midnight, so I feel like that's an accomplishment. I have I have an update about the final 2 questions. The final 2 questions of this main character tag are, what deal would your main character make with a crossroads demon? And what would they think on their deathbed? And I did dedicate time today to considering that, especially question number 7, the crossroads demon question, just because I had kind of these 2 potential things that I was warring with of, well, she might do this or she might do that. One of them, I was like, oh, well, I could talk about that. But the other one, I can't talk about because that is a major spoiler. So unfortunately, I cannot answer that question, which makes me kind of want to laugh because I'm pretty sure this is also a question that I didn't answer in my last video, which then makes me think, even though it's a fun question, potentially it's a problematic question because, you know, the whole point of the tag was to come up with questions that made it so you wouldn't have to spoil your book. But if you really get down to brass tacks, we're kind of asking, what is your character's deepest desire and what would they literally sell their soul for? And for the most part, any story is going to explore that aspect of their main character. So I thought that might be kind of a problematic question. I will say though that I did consider coming up with kind of a silly answer for this. What's something hilarious that she would sell her soul for? Like, was there an ice cream flavor that has been discontinued and she would literally sell her soul to try it again? And I really couldn't come up with anything. That at least has made me have a mental note of, I have all of this intense heavy stuff about Andromeda, but I don't have any real moments of levity with her. That is something that I want to focus on, you know, in the next day or 2, is coming up with little attributes of her personality that are moments of levity within her psyche. And then as for what she would think about on her deathbed, I really thought about this one and unfortunately cannot say, which is really too bad. I know the answer. That's the important thing. You know, as much as this was a main character tag video, at the heart of it, this is a me trying to understand my character video. And this final question was one that I wasn't sure about. And now it's actually something that I'm interested in exploring, but I can't answer this question because, yeah, it would just give away some stuff. So, oops. 2 out of the 8 questions go unanswered. Sometimes I just get really mad because I would just prefer to say it out loud, like the way that I do with This Book is for October. I can say though that in the process of considering Andromeda as a character, I've come up with multiple other potential things I can do to address this writing slump. So strap in because this could be a long series. I had already planned out a couple of videos, but now I've got like a whole handful. Ask me what the difference between a couple and a handful is. I don't know. To come in and close out this video with some of my general thoughts on
doing this tag and its overall effect on my attempt to combat my writing slump. Also, I really apologize for the video quality right now. My SD card broke. I thought I had lost so much of my footage. I was able to retrieve it, but I had to throw my SD card away, and now I'm filming on my phone. I'm a little bit on the fence at the end of all of this concerning how much this exercise helped. It did take me quite a few days, and ultimately I've done this character work, but I don't really feel any more prepared to go into the story. So a conclusion I could draw is that maybe not knowing my main character wasn't as large of a block for me as I thought it was. Maybe it's not that large of a contributor to my writing slump, or maybe it's just that I haven't done enough work on getting to know her better and understanding her motivations. I do feel like exploring some of these questions helped me flesh out Andromeda a little bit more, help give her a bit more spark than she had in the draft I was working on. I also think it helped me identify, and I don't think I talked about this a lot, but it helped me identify the fact that she really has two main emotions at war within her, and that's fear and rage. And ultimately, I think her rage is very much fueled by fear. So that's definitely been helpful, because then I can explore both of those emotions and not feel like I'm flip-flopping back and forth between being scared and being angry. They are the same thing for her, and I just need to recognize that in scenes where I start her as afraid, she needs to morph into angry, because that's kind of her natural inclination. And now that I'm sitting here talking about it, remembering some of the chapters I've already written, I actually have kind of done that unintentionally. So that's exciting, but I'm still having an inability to actually sit down and write. And not just because I don't want to, it's not that simple. There are a lot of other factors, and so I want to tackle more of them. Those are basically all of my thoughts for now. Sorry for being so chatty this video, but I guess that's kind of the point. If you're interested in hearing about other people's main characters, as I mentioned earlier in the video, I will have linked in the description lots of other main character tags. And I think I forgot to mention this when I was filming my intro, but this is technically a collab between me and Katie Ann. We decided we wanted to kind of revive this tag, so she's also putting out a main character tag this Thursday. I'll link her channel below. Once that's up, I'll also link the video. And as for who I'm going to tag, I am tagging Mullen from Mullen Tries. I will link her channel below. I'm also tagging my friend Stig Deerdahl, who is one of the creators of this tag. He asked me to tag him again, despite the fact that he never makes YouTube videos, but consider yourself indefinitely tagged, Stig. And of course, if any of you watching this want to explore this tag and upload a video, consider yourself tagged as well. Thank you so much for watching. Theoretically, I will have a video up next Tuesday as I attempt to tackle yet another factor that I've identified as potentially causing my writing slump. And this one will be an external factor, so get ready for that, I guess. But until then, go be happy, go be healthy, and go write. Bye.